Hello, I'm Rose Diamond from Tribe in Transition, and today I want to talk with you about becoming a conscious, empowered creator. Of course, creativity is a huge subject. It's one that I've been interested in and practicing in all my life, really. And so I want to keep this particular session focused on an aspect of creative empowerment, which I believe is really important for all of us. And that is staying open to creativity as a process of discovery and experimentation. So there are many stages of the creative process, and I think where I've noticed that most people seem to get hung up or stuck in their creative process is when they move to the stage of perfecting before they've even really begun. So what I want to encourage you to do is to allow yourself in your creating to enjoy the early stages of the creative process, which is really about inspiration, bringing inspiration down, creative play, using your imagination. And in this way, this is the way that we actually develop our skills as well, so that when we're really ready to have something to say publicly, we have the skills to do that. So when I'm creating, that's when I feel the most connected. The act of concentration, focus, really brings me connected into myself, into my body, into my whole being. It's like I move into another dimension of myself. I also feel connected particularly when I'm doing this more inner process of discovery. I feel very connected with that aspect of myself that I call the soul, the deeper, wiser, guiding part of me, much bigger part of me that knows where I'm going and why, whereas as a personality, I don't always. So the soul is coming through often in our creative process. And that's what we're learning to do as empowered creators, is to find the appropriate form and way of communicating this bigger wisdom and knowledge from the soul. And then there's another way that I connect also, which is from an even vaster resource of creative inspiration beyond even the soul. And I call this the evolutionary impulse. It's if you like, it's part of the original creative force of the universe, which started with the Big Bang, which is still acting out through all of us right now. It's really exciting. And that comes through in a form of ideas and inspirations. And I believe, certainly for me, it drives a lot of my motivation. This quest to become the best possible creator I can be, in service to the evolutionary impulse, in service to this higher intelligence which is informing all of us all the time, if we stop to listen, if we give it space, if we trust it. And that comes to us in ideas or inspirations, and those ideas and inspirations are seeds. And they're infinite. There are infinite seeds, there are infinite ideas, there are infinite possibilities. But as a creator, when I choose to receive one of those seeds and to start working with it, to start co-creating with it, that's when there's a possibility to bring that through into form, into something which can actually start to shape my own life and possibly even shape the life of the culture. So I'd like to give an example from what happened, one thing that happened for me this week, of how I have been stopping myself from opening up a new field of creativity. So I've always been a writer. I've been, and what I've discovered through writing is that you learn to write by writing. You learn to garden by gardening. You learn to ride a bike by riding a bike. We don't actually, well, maybe some people do, but most of us don't come into this world fully formed writers who have it all sussed out. We have to learn. And I've learned to write I've just been writing constantly for at least 30 or 40 years now. And so I'm constantly perfecting the art and craft of writing. And it's still a struggle for me sometimes. Sometimes it's a beautiful flow. Other times I feel like I'm struggling with this big hairy monster, which I'm trying to fit into a form, and it doesn't want to go there, and it's a real challenge. But let me go back to this example of a new field of creativity that I've just dipped a toe into this week, and that is drawing. And I've wanted to draw for a long time now, but I just noticed that I don't really give myself the time to do it. I did about 2 or 3 years ago. I had a year when I was colouring in mandalas, and I found that incredibly therapeutic, very calming and meditative, and I loved playing with colours, and I loved kind of balancing the colours in the mandala and seeing how it was going to come out in the end. It was a journey of discovery. I didn't know how it was going to look in the end. It just had to trust that I put this here and that there, and eventually it's going to create this beautiful whole. So I had that experience, but I had never really given myself permission to step into just the area of being a free-form drawer and trying to bring images from my imagination onto a page in that kind of form. And the reason why I wasn't doing that was because I had this idea that I'm not good at it, that I don't have any skills. And why I think that is often when I try to do something, the gap between what I'm imagining and what I'm actually able to reproduce on the paper is so big that it's kind of painful and embarrassing and a bit humiliating because I can't do it. However, as I said, I've learned to be a writer by writing, so I know that if I was to apply myself, I could become relatively proficient at drawing by just doing it over and over and over again. So this week I actually sat down and did a drawing over several days, and it's not complete yet, and it certainly isn't a masterpiece. But what I learned from that process was the most important thing I learned actually was that instead of thinking that I have to know how to do it, it's just to listen to the drawing itself, to be guided by what's actually emerging there on the paper, just as I am when I'm writing a poem. A poem comes through me. I don't sit down and rationally think, I'm going to put this word and that word. That is a later stage of the process when I'm editing. But when I'm writing the poem, it just comes through me. I'm receiving it. And I realise the same could be true of a drawing. That's like when people write novels, they say, my characters take on a life of their own. I'm not making them up. They're actually leading me. And I could see how the drawing was doing that too, that if I really took my time and kind of felt into it and listened and looked, that the drawing was actually showing me what needed to happen next. And it was just this step-by-step process of listening and following and experimenting. And then, of course, there's a point where I realise that I do need some tuition. I do need some help to develop my skills. I can see that I do have an innate style. It's very primitive and symbolic, but there is a style there which is particularly Rose Diamond, and I could develop that. But in order to develop that, there's going to come a point where I need to actually learn some technique. But the first stage of this process, to go back to my original theme, is about discovery. It's about play. It's about what I learn about myself and my creative process through allowing myself to play, through giving myself this opportunity to do something which is very nourishing to me. So that's really my message to you today. I think that's a really important part of creative empowerment. We don't have to get it right. It doesn't have to be perfect. There is maybe a further stage along the way of perfecting our skills, but to start with, just giving yourself space, allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to enter into creative play, which will connect you with your own imagination, your own intuition, your own inner guidance, and may result in something absolutely beautiful and stunning. So thank you for listening today. I'm sure I have lots more to say about creativity later on, but that's all for today. Thank you.